Joining me now, Roger Helmer, the leader of the UKIP delegation of MEPs in Brussels. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
Suzanne Evans said this morning on the BBC that all they want Nigel Farage, is to take a break. 2 weeks would do, a 2-week holiday. Are you seriously trying to maintain that this whole row is about whether or not Nigel Farage should have a 2-week holiday?
What row? I mean, I think it's extraordinary the way the media have built up really some minor issues. We had some office politics in the London office. We had a couple of staffers who've gone. Nigel went to the NEC and resigned. I don't think there's any dispute about that. And the NEC said, I'm sorry, Nigel, we cannot accept your resignation.
Did he submit a written letter of resignation?
Well, I wasn't in the room when it happened, but the version that I have from members of the NEC to whom I have spoken, he presented his letter of resignation and it was rejected. I think Douglas is right that after an election, any party, all parties, should have an analysis of how the campaign went, should have a discussion of how the points were made, how the presentation of policy was made. There I agree. I think there are some points that Douglas is making where I wouldn't agree with his analysis, but that's a different matter.
Should you not have had a leadership election simply to clear the airwaves?
We would have done had it not been for the party, as represented by the NEC, insisting to Nigel that he remain. I've sat in my office and I've looked at the number of emails and texts and letters coming in from party members, activists all across the country, across my East Midlands region, saying he must stay.
We've spoken to a lot of people in UKIP on both sides of this argument.
Well, there aren't many people on the other side of the argument, to be honest.
We've certainly spoken to a lot. Maybe all of them, but we've certainly spoken to a lot. And it seems that what this argument is really about is about Nigel Farage, and it's about tone and style. It's about whether you go for your core vote or whether you try to broaden it, whether you attack immigrants coming in with HIV or the BBC audience for being too left-wing, or reach out beyond that core vote. And that's what it's really about, particularly with the referendum coming up. Well, where do you stand on that?
One of the areas where I would disagree with Douglas is his assertion that immigration is not important in the EU debate. Because we just had a general election. I've knocked on huge numbers of doors, and my experience and my colleagues' experience is that one of the biggest issues, perhaps the biggest issue on the doorstep, is immigration, and immigration is intimately linked to free movement within the European Union. You cannot separate them. So I think we're right to talk about immigration. I think it would be a great negative for our campaign in the referendum if we failed to point out these issues.
But is Nigel Farage the right person to be leading you into a referendum campaign? Because many Tory Eurosceptics, people who are not that different from your own point of view, and some in your own party, think that he's a negative, think that he turns people off, that you got 4 million votes, almost, that's great, but you need between 15 and 20 million to get your no vote, and he's not the man to do it.
Well, if you cast your mind back a year, when Europe was the issue in the Euro election, in that election we got more votes than any other party. So I don't think you can judge this purely on the basis of a Westminster election. Now, in terms of Nigel's particular skill set, I regard him, and many people inside and outside the party regard him as the best communicator in British politics today.
So he's the man to lead the out campaign?
Well, he leads, his job is to lead UKIP, and UKIP will play a major part in the out campaign.
Even if he turns people off?
Well, I don't think he does turn people off. I say he is an excellent communicator. People admire Nigel because, unlike so many politicians, he tells it like it is. He says what he believes. He's like Marmite, love him or hate him, but you know he's saying what he thinks.
You need someone who's not a Marmite to reach out to all these no votes or yes to leave votes. You need someone who isn't Marmite.
What you need is somebody who is absolutely clear and informed on the issues and is able to communicate those issues. There are people who don't like his style. I don't disagree with that for a moment. But overall, he has been a fantastic leader and a very, very effective communicator. He is an asset that in this circumstance we cannot do without.
Are you glad to see the back of these two Tea Party types who were so close to him?
I wouldn't define them as Tea Party types, but there were two people who I believe contributed to making problems in terms of press briefings and so on. And yes, I think it was right that they should go.
All right, Roger Helmer, thank you.
My pleasure.
UKIP's share of the vote across the southwest went up from 5% in 2010 to 13% in 2015. But it was here in Plymouth Moorview where the party performed the best, with 1 in 5 people opting for UKIP. And it hasn't been difficult tracking down some of those voters today. So how did you vote last Thursday?
UKIP.
Why did you vote for UKIP?
Because I don't like Ed Miliband and I don't like what the Conservatives are going to do.
I voted UKIP
And why is that?
because I thought he was honest and he straight.
And you're talking about Nigel Farage.
Yeah, that's right.
So did you vote for him, really?
I really did.
They'll be buoyed by their large collection of second and third places and the 10 councillors they've just gained in Devon.
So support for UKIP is on the rise across the southwest, but with their holy grail of an EU referendum now on the horizon anyway, the next few years will prove a crucial junction for the party.
I'm joined now, as I said earlier, by Steve Crowther, UKIP chairman, based here in Devon. Just taking a stab in the dark, I'm assuming you don't take the view of Patrick O'Flynn, MEP, that there are more poisonous influences in Europe, in UKIP and in Europe certainly, and that Nigel Farage has become a snarling, thin-skinned and aggressive character.
No, I don't, Martin. I think Patrick has gone on subsequently to say that he felt that he had possibly been slightly quoted out of context, and he has said how much he's actually gone on to describe Nigel as his political hero, and given him absolute backing as leader of the party.
I know, I mean, talking to Nigel Farage over the last couple of years, he's admitted that UKIP used to be sometimes, you know, a little bit indisciplined and unprofessional. He's always said that this has been put behind you. To have a number of very senior figures in UKIP fighting this battle so publicly seems to be back to the bad old days.
It's a very small number. I mean, I think
but big players, big donors like Stuart Wheeler.
That's true, but the thing is that we've just been through an extraordinarily gruelling election campaign for everyone. That followed on our by-election campaigns in Clacton and Rochester, which followed on fairly soon after our win in the European elections last year. So there's been a very, very intense period, and at the end of this election campaign, you know, you're bound to have a little bit of a letting off of steam. The top comes off the pressure cooker, and people are a little bit tired and fractious.
You've got senior people within UKIP saying what your critics have said for a long time, that this is a one-man band. It's
interesting.
An absolute monarchy.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, Martin? Because we've got all these senior people saying there's a one-man band. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? How could that possibly be true? Where are all these senior people coming from if it's a one-man band? I mean, this is the point. There is a healthy debate at the top of UKIP, and many people who are monarchs
have senior lieutenants, don't they? But they tell them what to do.
That was a flip remark, and you know, Nigel, and this whole episode has demonstrated there are a lot of very good senior people in UKIP, and are keen to help take the party forward.
So, is everything magically healed then at this point? How do you accommodate what seem to be wildly polarised differences?
I don't think so. I think, as I say, I think there was a bit of handbags at the end of the election, and I think it's all calmed down, and everybody's pretty much happy to work together, and behind. You know, Nigel has the 100% backing of the party.
The 100% backing?
Yeah. I mean, the dissent, if you like, in terms of numbers, is 0.005% of the party, so I'm rounding it up.
I've actually set down a personal red line. I've asked the Prime Minister. I can't compromise my integrity. I actually got involved in politics to restore control over our 200-mile median line limit. The referendum bill doesn't actually say you're going to argue for in or out before that happens. I sponsored the private members' bill twice, and I believe that with this constitutional change, it's absolutely right. Unlike Labour and the Liberal Democrats, we should trust the British people.
I'm 100% with Cheryl on this, on the fishing. Completely and absolutely, we've got to get control over that 200-mile limit.
OK, Steve, thank you very much.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.